Coming up in today's video, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking about some huge news surrounding a WWE announcement, also massive plans between WWE and TNA. We are going to take a look at another WWE return that has happened, more details on that, and so much more. And it's all coming up right here on the Ango Show. If you guys want more videos like this, don't forget to click that subscribe button, ring that bell. It brings us closer to 100,000 subscribers, plus all the social links down at the ticker below. I want to kick things off with Shayna Baszler. As you guys know, Shayna Baszler appeared in a backstage segment, and a lot of people are wondering, does this mean that Shayna Baszler is full-time back with the WWE? Now, there has been a lot of conversation about Shayna Baszler because at one point there was rumors that Shayna Baszler was working backstage in NXT as a coach. And then there was a very interesting thing that came up with Shayna Baszler doing interviews and potentially going to AEW, which now becomes a little bit more confusing because of Shayna Baszler's appearance in WWE NXT last night. And as of now, it appears that Shayna Baszler is technically a free agent. Technically, Shayna Baszler can go to another company. From my understanding, based on the reports that have surfaced, Shayna Baszler is not actually contracted to WWE as a performer, but she is working with the WWE in some sort of behind-the-scenes role. Now, there has been this belief that she's been producing matches and taking on a variety of roles backstage with WWE, which would make a lot of sense. But with Shayna Baszler speaking publicly about potentially going elsewhere, I mean, honestly, at this point, it's a very, very confusing situation. Now, keep in mind, NXT Homecoming was a really, really dope episode of NXT. We saw so many people that came through NXT show up, and I think that was mainly the reason as to why Shayna Baszler was there. I wouldn't expect Shayna Baszler to be on TV moving forward, nor would I expect her to be competing in WWE anytime soon. However, I think there is more to pay attention to with her potentially being backstage, working in some sort of environment where she is actually more hands-on with the product behind the scenes, which that would ultimately make a lot of sense. Now, regarding Shayna Baszler and her future, if we get any updates or anything like that, I will keep you guys updated along the way. Let's talk about it, guys. WWE and ESPN. There's been a ton of talk about ESPN and WWE, obviously with their partnership kicking off this weekend. However, ESPN did a media call today, and the media had asked questions all about WWE and their partnership with ESPN. There's two things I really want to highlight, which is now at this time, ESPN has made it very clear the only content they are bringing to ESPN from WWE is the PLEs. So you will be able to watch the PLEs on ESPN, and then they will be available on demand through ESPN. So that's one really big thing, obviously, that we need to keep in mind. Eventually, maybe that could change, but as of now, that is one of the big things. Also, the second thing that I thought was really fascinating was John Elba from Sports Illustrated had actually asked a question regarding Brock Lesnar being named in the Janelle Grant lawsuit, and ESPN was very, very, very clear on how this works. They said basically WWE has full creative control over its storylines and talent, and they made it very clear that they are not the ones to request specific wrestlers for shows. So basically, all of this decision of having Brock Lesnar on WWE television has not been that was not asked by ESPN. They did not request it or anything of that nature. Now, the real reason why I even want to talk about that was because a lot of people were curious, why isn't ESPN stopping WWE from doing this, especially being that ESPN is owned by Disney? A lot of people thought that maybe they would be a little bit more involved here. Maybe they would try to prevent WWE from doing things. Maybe WWE would have some sort of creative influence from ESPN. And basically, due to their answer, I think it's safe to say that, yeah, WWE has full creative control over their product. And two, I don't think ESPN executives, Disney executives are looking at WWE and saying, no, you can't do this, which I think a lot of people were fearful in general, not even just about talent, but in general. What can they get away with? What can they not get away with? That sort of thing. I feel like ESPN is kind of treating the WWE the same way that they treated UFC, which for the most part, there was very, 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 very little overreach from ESPN going into the WWE, into the UFC. So now I'm starting to expect the same thing to be said for WWE. Now, of course, with WWE bringing back Brock Lesnar, you kind of have to wonder how this is all going to shape up, but clearly ESPN has no problem with it. And that brings us to our next topic, ladies and gentlemen. WWE had an announcement today for WrestlePalooza, and this was something that was very interesting to me. I had to do a couple different Google searches because there was a release of information that WWE will have the first ever EMF friendly match at WWE WrestlePalooza Saturday, September 20th, 2025. Aries is a company who they proclaim to be the leader in EMF protection, and they're continuing their partnership with WWE this Saturday as they will host the first ever EMF protection match, which is basically just a sponsorship. And this will be for the Usos versus Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed match. So I actually was looking into this, and the EMF protection, if you go onto their website, Aries Tech, EMF protection for your modern lifestyle, scientifically proven to neutralize harmful EMFs from electronic devices. Aries technology supports your health without interrupting device functionality. So they actually have a lot of research and a lot of information for what they call electrical activity from devices, right? So smartphones and headphones and all of these different things. And they make these little products that you could actually put on, like you could wear it as a necklace. You could do all this kind of stuff. Listen, I am not sponsored by EMF. I'm not here to promote EMF, but this is a WWE partnership that they will have during this match. I've never heard of a product like this. I don't know if this product works. I don't know anything about it. So do your own research for sure. But of course, it is interesting to see that WWE is having a partnership like this. This seems to be one of the smaller companies that they're working with. And I am definitely curious as to why, because it just simply didn't make that much sense. And that brings us to NXT and TNA. If you guys watched NXT last night at Homecoming, throughout the entire night, TNA wrestlers were tweeting very angrily against the WWE. A lot of wrestlers were upset about NXT Homecoming. And now it's very clear with WWE acknowledging those tweets, they are setting up an invasion angle. Now, keep in mind, several months ago, we talked about this coming full scale. And then just a couple weeks ago, we saw Matt and Jeff Hardy and Leon Slater, and we saw those guys stand in the middle of the TNA ring, and they want TNA back. And it's very clear that they are preparing to go to war with WWE NXT. A couple things that I really want to mention about this. We have heard rumors that the CW will be a legitimate TV deal option for TNA. And the CW getting TNA would be great, especially if they go live every week, because now we could set up true crossover programming between NXT and TNA. So that's obviously something to keep in mind. It hasn't been announced yet, but Carlos Silva has made it relatively clear that the announcement will come soon. I am hoping that TNA gets on the CW because this sort of crossover, especially with an invasion angle, could be really, really good news for TNA. The second thing I want to mention is that we didn't get the invasion angle last night, and it seemed like it was all setting up for last night. However, WWE revealed that Ricky Saints, obviously he's got a lot of stuff going on, but Trick Williams has now entered the picture with Obafemi, and it's title for title. So Trick Williams versus Obafemi, NXT Superstar versus an NXT Superstar for the TNA belt and the NXT title. This is definitely going to be a no contest because I truly believe the way NXT ends next week will be through this invasion angle. And then, of course, we'll see how far they have mapped it out. But this is really dope, really exciting to see that they're building something special between the two companies. And honestly, I just hope it works out. It's very tricky booking invasion angles, but I am excited to see what they do.